Hey football fans, it's the Football Wife. In today's episode, we're going to continue talking about fantasy football. So in the last episode, I gave you guys the homework to find a fantasy league to play in. So for those of you who are going to play fantasy this season, let's talk about how it works. Now in preparation for the draft, you'll want to do research on the players that are out there, rank them by position. I usually like to have a ranking of the top players by position and then the top players overall. It'll really help you while you're doing your draft because you won't have much time when you're on the clock to make your pick. So during the draft, you'll come into it knowing what order you're going to pick. The commissioner will determine the draft order randomly, sometimes the computer determines it, but you'll be ranked, 1 through 12, 1 through 14, depending on the amount of people in your draft. So there are a couple different types of drafts, an auction, but the snake draft is usually the most common. This is where you pick an order, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 12, and then you snake back 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, and so on. It's important to note that if you're pick number 1 or pick number 12, you'll have to pick really quickly and be on your feet because you're going to pick twice in a row. So if you've got the 12th pick, you have to be ready because it's coming back at you as it snakes back down. In terms of the actual draft, you want to pay attention to the settings of your league. Depending on the league you're playing on, what platform you're using, the settings could be a little bit different. But for instance, the Yahoo standard fantasy template, you draft 17 players, you play 9 players of the various positions each week, and you have 8 bench players. Now when you're drafting, it's really important to pay attention to the bye weeks of the players you're drafting. For instance, you don't want all of your running backs to have a week 8 bye and then you'd have nobody to play that week. So definitely keep an eye on that. In terms of draft strategy, there are a million strategies out there. A lot of people like to pick quarterbacks early, late, carry 2 of them, 2 tight ends, 2 defenses. It's really up to you to figure out your strategy, and there's a lot of information out there about fantasy drafting, so I encourage you to get out there on Google and do some research. For me, my 2 cents, I always like to have 2 quarterbacks going into the season, obviously with different bye weeks. I like to just draft my kicker last. To me, they're a dime a dozen, and they're pretty much interchangeable, and sometimes I'll pick up and drop them during the season for various reasons. So my biggest advice to you going into your fantasy draft is to prepare, do some research. When you're on the clock, it's really easy to get a little stressed out and, oh my gosh, I only have a minute, who do I want to pick? And you're fumbling through papers and things like that. So for me, I like to be organized with an Excel spreadsheet. I will do my research and then have my player rankings, so I'll have a tab for overall players, and then I'll have a tab for individual positions, the top players at the individual positions, and I'll usually throw in there, the guy's name, his team, when his bye week is, so you can really easily search when you need, maybe a running back who doesn't have a week 7 bye, so then you can easily, look in your spreadsheet. That's just me. You'll definitely find your own system that works. One thing to mention, a lot of leagues will have a penalty, sometimes fun, sometimes, not so fun if you try to draft a player that's already been drafted. So it's big taboo, so definitely make sure you're paying attention to who the other people in your league are drafting. 2 other main keys to fantasy. 1, team name. You got to have a good one. Everybody always wants to have the best team name. So this is another, you can kind of cheat and do some Googling, see if anybody else out there has come up with a cool team name. But having a cool team name is key. The other key is trash talking. It's one of the best things about fantasy football. Get on those message boards, get involved, give a guy crap for, leaving one of his better players on the bench one week or, not subbing somebody in. It's a lot of fun to kind of trash talk during the games or during the week leading up to the game. So I hope you guys have a lot of fun playing fantasy. Leave some comments. Let me know how your season's going, and I'll be back to you soon with another video. Thanks for watching.